welcome to the Doom Scroll News Report here on Radio Taiwan International, where I, Amanda Stevens, and my co-host,
Hanna,
two writers, political by necessity, cover some of the biggest international news stories dominating our news feeds from the last week. I'm Amanda Stevens, and this week we're tackling Google's release of Nano Banana PRO and what that potentially means for the future of visual journalism, Trump pardoning one big actor in the South American drug war while also perpetuating a not war on Venezuela, yeah. And Oxford's entry to the Word of the Year arena. So these are most of the things that have kept me up at night, but also it's the holiday season, and that's kind of the only good thing going for me right now. So Hanna, do you have any big holiday plans coming up?
You know, we're just planning on a quiet Christmas at home because, you know, Junior's presents, they're all bought, they're wrapped, they're waiting next to the tree.
It's baby's first Christmas. I guess it's not, but no, it's like his first Christmas was when he was like, congratulations, you're alive.
He was
That's
like a lump. And we didn't even know what day it was most of the time.
How could you?
During that time.
You're in the baby haze.
I've already explained to him, of course he has no idea what I'm saying. I've already explained to him that Santa does not come until you reliably sleep through the night. Because he knows when you are sleeping and he knows when you're awake.
You're so right.
So if you're not sleeping at 3 a.m.,
he can't show up.
He can't come.
How can Santa come if you're not sleeping through the night? You know what? That was a problem for me when I was a child.
Really?
My parents did have to tell us multiple times, like, if you guys don't go to sleep, Santa won't come. Because we were night owls. And that was our problem.
Well, this is the line I'm feeding him now. So we'll just see how it works.
You can keep that up for a long time. Trust me.
Can.
It was something that plagued me long into my childhood. So anyway, on to like way less fun topics, but I guess surprise gifts. Let's talk about presidential pardons first. Honestly, because I think this is going to be more of like a cut and dry story than the other two. Well, mostly than the Google Nano Banana one. So we're going to start with the fact that Donald Trump pardoned the former president of Honduras. One story that crossed my feed last week was President Trump's pardon of former Honduran President Juan Hernández. I was impressed mostly because, as I feel I've already expressed, the blatant hypocrisy of pardoning this man who is in jail, or was potentially, for directly assisting the import of, according to the BBC, 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, and also for directly accepting bribes from the notorious drug lord El Chapo. So Hernández was sentenced in 2024 to 45 years for his crime. But now, in 2025, he will have served at most like a year of the sentence. I don't even think that. So he's essentially just getting away scot-free, right?
Yeah.
This at the same time that the Trump administration, although mostly Pete Hegeseth, is coming under fire for committing war crimes potentially, that the president is off and on seemingly ordering or has no direct knowledge of, depending on if people are angry about it. And as of last week, demanding that the Venezuelan airspace be closed. All because of their alleged support of the drug cartel Tren de Aragua. How did this news hit you, and why do you think one already convicted former president is getting leniency, further than that, clemency, while another not convicted and still in power president is seemingly being directly targeted? Because a lot of this does seem to be targeted towards Maduro, who's the president of Venezuela.
It's strange, isn't it? All this bloviating about the so-called war on drugs.
Another $5 word there.
Yeah. And bombing so-called, what do they call it? Narco boats.
Narco-terrorists, which is not a word until they used it.
Oh, that could be a new word of the year. And yet, he takes no issue with pardoning Mr. 400 tons of cocaine.
Cocaine.
You know? In the end, it doesn't actually matter, does it? As long as your political values happen to align more closely to Trump's. And as long as pardoning you is going to trigger liberals. You know, they keep saying, I noticed in one of the articles, they keep saying it's to right the wrongs of the Biden administration.
Yeah, I was wondering.
It's just code for I want to undo anything worthwhile or hard-won that Biden managed to accomplish, just because
I feel like, honestly,
I hate him. He's my op.
Anything that Biden accomplished, it does feel like that to me. Does feel like that's the biggest driving force here, because anything that is associated with Biden and anything is the new Obama.
Yeah, he wants to
Obama's
erase
still a bad guy in Trump's book.
Or something.
Yes. And I don't know how much Biden even directly had to do with this. It doesn't seem like he really was directly involved in this. It's just that it happened when he was president.
He is obsessed with trying to reverse every decision that he made. I guess just on the principle that he made it. You know, I think also, besides this kind of this more obvious objective is keeping these right-wing types propped up in Central America. That's another MO of the United States government, and they want to destabilize any potentially too left-wing or at least not pro-American enough political movement in the area or figure.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of the obvious underlying bit, but I really think he just wants to trigger the liberals. He wants to erase everything Biden did to the best of his ability.
It is worth noting what you said, that because he is seen as being more favorable or potentially right-leaning, he might be more favorable to some of Trump's agenda moves and motives. Okay, so Hannah, for this next topic, I know you and I both have feelings about AI, especially generative AI, which have come through. I don't know that they're as complicated as we'd like to pretend. They've come through very clearly on this podcast, but I'm going to try and set aside my personal grievances to talk about this next topic, because I actually think that there are much larger stakes here than we've previously addressed with the due seriousness that they're owed. That haven't really been an issue until this week. I also think it's a little bit more complicated because, while we do have some things that technically are honestly amazing, I think that I was alerted by a lot of AI ethicists and professionals and celebrities who are worried about new possibilities.
That's the real keyword here is ethics.
What we're talking about is Google's newest version of its generative AI Nano Banana PRO and the implications that it may have for visual journalism and, in my opinion, kind of just visual communication in general. But I want to start by asking, do you consider yourself good at identifying AI images, and what are some tell signs that you look for?
So I think I'm decent at it. I think
we've had some time to practice. It's been a year and a half, over a year.
Right. Yes. There are certain things that AI couldn't get right initially that they have since refined, but there's still problem areas. And there's still just a certain feeling there's a feeling that an AI image or video has that it just makes you cock your head. I would say that I'm becoming increasingly doubtful of myself as it gets more sophisticated. Sometimes I just check the comments section and see if somebody else has someone else AI, and if I missed something,
and if
then
they
I
have
go
receipts.
back and I look. So I'm becoming more and more cautious, whereas before I was really confident about being able to spot when something was AI. It was just uncanny, or there was some unrealistic representation of hands or text, or, skin, or whatever.
Hands, text, the amber glow.
Right.
So these are things that a lot of people use, myself included, when we're looking at what an AI image is and what is not. But that is actually not going to be very helpful because of Google's new Nano Banana PRO. Honestly, I'm convinced some techie named it that just to make me or newscasters say it a million times publicly. I'll be referring to it as Pro for most of this article because I can't edit myself saying Nano Banana a bazillion times.
That sounds good to me.
But to start, Nano Banana, which is the real name of the generative AI, is Google's image generation AI, and it has been around since August of this year. However, it never really stood out amongst other generative AIs in my own knowledge, in part because there's such a glut of image generators. Right. However, on November 25th, so a little bit over a week ago as of recording, Google released the newest version in Nano Banana PRO. And now that has stood out among the rest. This time for good reasons, technologically good reasons. PRO has ultra-realistic images of people. And when I say ultra-realistic, I mean literally indistinguishable from photos. I cannot tell the difference. So a lot of those tell signs we were talking about, that kind of fuzziness to textures, an inappropriate level of vividness, garbled words, none of that is present. And it's not just me who can't tell the difference. There are a lot of people who have even trained to do this themselves who can no longer tell the difference. It also has finally accomplished something other models never got right, in that it is extremely accurate text in the images. And this is mostly because Google is aiming for commercial use with this version, and it's hugely targeted towards corporations to be able to use it for ads and infographics. Tests I read about from social media, and also Katelyn Chedraoui at CNET and Wired's Reese Rogers produced extremely accurate and well-made infographics on a variety of subjects, from the dangers of smoking to Chedraoui's own reporting. Finally, while it does have a visual watermark for all AI-generated images, this can be removed, legally speaking, although it can also be removed illegally. It's just a sparkle in the corner, so if you crop the image, you can see how that would happen. Although, Google says that it has woven a synth ID into the image itself, which at least Google's own Gemini, the AI that's the backbone of PRO, can recognize. Even I have to admit, it's a technological wonder, and it's the first image generation tool that has made me genuinely curious to try it out. Truly, I never thought I'd say it. Do you have any thoughts after reading about it and seeing the images that it has produced? This is another one where I would say, if you are just listening to this and you have a moment, look them up. Look up what we're talking about here.
This feels like one of those things that I hope that by never Googling, never trying out, never looking into further, I can pretend it does not exist. Because I think the potential for abuse is so great that I'm afraid to look upon it. Like it's going to turn me to stone.
Well, and I mean, that is what we're going to talk about here today. I would also say another source that I found extremely helpful when I was trying to just balance my own thoughts on this was actually NBC News did a short video about Nano Banana, where you can watch it and see what it can do very quickly with your own information and with information you do not provide. So, all that said, as I alluded to before, experts in the field of AI ethics and image identification are raising alarm bells, because this release was, originally I said it was done without guardrails, but that's not entirely true.
It feels that way.
It does have internal guardrails to it. One of those being the synth ID, and the AI itself does have some specific rules. Like if you put in somebody's direct name, a well-known figure, like an actor or an actress's name, it won't use that prompt.
Okay.
However,
there's got to be workarounds, right?
Yes. So we'll get to that. Other alarm bells that people have said specifically, before I get into some of the more specific examples, but just kind of generally. One, kind of a shaky grasp on using public figures, their own vague line in their AI policy of just not using AI to deceive. Pretty broad there. And the removable watermark in the bottom corner. Despite having the synth ID, it's unclear whether other AI image source readers will be able to pick that up. We just know Google's Gemini will. But to get to specific examples, though, of cases where it was tested, CNET's Chedraoui, who I mentioned earlier, did put out a glowing review in terms of what it is capable of. But she also wrote an article titled, "Google's Nano Banana PRO makes ultra-realistic AI images. It scares the hell out of me."
Oh, that's very promising.
Where she noted that during her testing, she was able to get it to reproduce identical looking images from TV shows with twin-like likenesses to actors.
Wow.
So
freaky.
Even though it wouldn't let her use the name when she put in the character, she was able to get it looked like a perfect screenshot from the show. She also said that in her testing, specifically towards infographics, when she tried to get it to make infographics about pseudoscience, PRO, quote, shut down any requests it correctly flagged as health misinformation, though it did let one image slip through, showcasing the guardrails in place are still imperfect, end quote. So, I mean, this is her job, is to sit there and test do these guardrails work? And it was only just released publicly, so there is going to be this window of testing and seeing where things slip through.
Refinement, yeah.
That being said, one reason I'm concerned, and something that a lot of other ethicists have brought up, is that realistically, there are always bad actors out there who will use this to scam people. Those people have been there all along. It's been happening. Things that immediately popped to my mind are, what if you're not a public figure? You just have a photo of somebody. Kids, cyberbullying is something that worries me. But another thing that really worries me is that just right now, this is limited to still images. And we say it so many times, a picture tells 1,000 words. And that's why photojournalism has been so important to news and reporting. This week, the U.S. Senate released never-before-seen images of the Epstein mansion, which was something people were kind of hungering for.
Very bizarre.
But in a world where it's virtually impossible to distinguish real and falsified images, and definitely someday videos, because that's a cliff we're hurtling towards. What do you think the release of essentially these free use tools look like to the masses? And what does it mean for the state of visual proof and visual journalism as a whole? And I know I said virtually free use. You just need to have enough money to buy the subscription.
I think big tech is deliberately pushing this out faster than legal frameworks can actually keep up to stop them, because there's a lot of money at stake, and that's all they really care about at the end of the day. But I imagine the government isn't in any hurry to regulate it either, because this is going to be such a useful tool for crafting the narrative, for fake news, for propaganda. And furthermore, as it gets better at generating images, as it gets better at generating footage, video footage, or
hiding the fact that it's generated.
Yes, it destabilizes the public sense of how to distinguish between what's real and what's not. And it creates this environment where the only options left are to be duped by an AI image or video, or to doubt everything you're seeing, no matter what the context is. And that doubt in itself is a really powerful tool, politically speaking, by just eroding people's ability to trust what they see online. I would hope that news outlets, trusted news sources, would be kind of the first line of defense for quadruple checking that a video or a photo or whatever image they put out is authentic, is real. And the downside to this, of course, is is anyone really reading the news anymore besides us?
Or watching those videos that I mentioned from ABC News, CNN, BBC.
So, I mean, a lot of people are just getting their news from Facebook,
social media,
Twitter, from
Instagram,
social media,
Reddit.
And that is totally unregulated territory. So I think it's going to get pretty crazy. Is all I can say.
I mean, that was really the CNET article's main drive, was the idea that there are bad actors out there, and it's not a matter of if, it's when this gets used to spread misinformation. There is currently no legal framework to deal with it, and that is a very dangerous and scary thing. And there's a lot of things you can do. I'll close this segment by saying, if you haven't yet, you should really consider taking some personal safety measures. Hopefully you've been doing these generally, but in case you haven't, now is the time to start. Some things would be to look into the difference between active and passive media consumption, and especially image consumption. So basically, are you accepting things at face value, or are you looking into where it's coming from and what motives there might be for sharing it, and the realistic possibility that what you're seeing is true. But in addition to that, double, triple checking stuff, finding your verified sources and using them. Even the comments check. It's not perfect, but it crowdsourcing things can help. Educate yourself and the people around you on the capabilities and who is using AI images. And another time, but consider setting up safe words for people that you might be sending images to, so nobody could be duped. And that's where we're going to leave this one for now. And we'll be back with a slightly lighter but definitely related topic to close out the episode. All right. Closing it out with a very appropriate ending here. The last episode that I did, we talked about Cambridge's word of the year, which was parasocial. Since then, Oxford has released their word of the year. Something interesting to note, it seems like Cambridge chooses their word of the year. I think they have like a panel of people that elect it, and it has to be a word from the Cambridge Dictionary that they've already added. Oxford, so far as I can tell, it looks like they do it by a vote, which means that Oxford's word of the year was rage bait, which, if you haven't heard it before, is when somebody, but a publisher or just somebody on social media or even TV publishes something to spike engagement, specifically through upsetting people, baiting people to click with rage.
Right.
So, Hanna, do you find yourself using the word rage bait much this year? And if so, what was the greatest incident you can remember?
I often use the word bait, not specifically rage bait, but
Clickbait?
I am known to trawl the internet in my free time. And when I see somebody post rage bait, I will comment under it and say, that's bait. That's bait. Don't take the bait. I love this word rage bait, though. I think it's actually even more relevant today than the word parasocial. I
was just going to ask you about that. Please go on.
It might just be because the word parasocial has been on my radar for years now. So by this point, it's not like fresh anymore. But rage bait, that word is really capturing the zeitgeist. It's very much finger on the pulse of the current moment, the current very politically divided moment that we're living through, because both sides do it and both sides tend to take the bait. I would say that even we took the bait just recently with that opinion piece.
I was going to bring that up.
About women ruining the workplace.
I feel
we took
like
the bait.
I was rage baited by the New York Times. And I found out it wasn't even the New York Times opinion. It was just posted under an opinion, but it was a totally different. It was from the New York Times. It just wasn't the New York Times opinion article.
Why are they allowing this? See, we're taking the bait.
You're getting baited again.
We're taking the bait.
So,
and it's also become part of the many rhetorical weapons that people and politicians can use now. For example, the White House has been continuously using songs by popular artists, and they have actually admitted they do it just to rage bait the artists into responding.
Yeah.
They have said as much.
Yeah.
So, and
because again, it's all about, it's the same idea as clickbait.
Exactly.
And we are currently living in a social media sphere where that's what drives the news, and the things that will get promoted most are the things that have the most attention. That's, people know the algorithm enough about that, at least.
And just earlier in our episode, how Trump has been throwing pardons at criminals convicted by the Biden administration. That is also rage bait.
Was he rage baited?
He was rage baited by being defeated.
See,
by
that's what
Biden.
I'm saying. Was he rage baited by
The thing is,
Biden existing?
I don't know. I guess it is. That guy is his ultimate op. There's another word for you, op.
I wish op had made it. Yeah, to be honest. Now, Oxford's other two runner-ups were biohack. So think about like a life hack, but like for your life. This alludes to things
your
like
health,
the popularity of anti-aging regimens and like plastic surgery, stuff like that.
That stuff is weird.
Aura farming was another runner-up, which is funny because I feel like we mentioned that last time as like a potential for the runner-up. I think it's fun to talk about these ones as like compared to the last one, especially because it's done by vote, which is a very different way to do it.
Right. So this is the majority opinion.
They chose brain rot, which was good.
That's good.
Anyway, that's all the time that we have for today's news report. A little update that's not in the script, but for everybody out there, the next two episodes, Hanna and I will be doing a shorter version of this and instead using it to sort of recap some of the most memorable news stories in our year.
2025
so that's something you can look
review.
Forward to as we kind of wrap up 2025. But in the meantime, a quick reminder that you can find all of our referenced articles in the show notes for today's episode, and do check out the images made by Nano Banana just to see if you can tell the difference, because I don't think you can. I'm Amanda Stevens.
I'm Hanna Belinsky.
And thanks for joining us on air today. Tune in tomorrow for more programs by Radio Taiwan International. And in the meantime, remember to stop scrolling and touch grass. We'll see you next week.
Bye.